AI is in the boardroom. It's drafting reports, shaping decisions, and it's raising big questions about trust.
The real challenge? It's not just about what AI can do, it's about the data laying underneath it and how leaders are governing and validating it.
Welcome to the pre-read.
Just like the slides you get before a big meeting, the pre-read prepares you, CFOs, and other executives for the next big thing. It's the global podcast where finance, sustainability, audit, and risk teams come together in the C-suite.
If you're making decisions at scale or need to understand the leaders who are, you're in the right place. This is the pre-read, and it's brought to you by Workiva.
I'm Steve Soder, accounting enthusiast and Diet Coke aficionado.
And I'm Alyssa Zucker, sustainability nerd and equal opportunist caffeine addict.
In today's episode, Workiva Chief Information Officer Kim Huffman sits down with Deepa Rao, Sustainability and AI Governance Leader at Cognizant. Deepa shares her thoughts on using AI when it comes to corporate reporting, data and processes, as well as governance. Alyssa, what stood out to you in their conversation?
Okay, so there were 2 points, and they should both come as no surprise. But the first is that AI should be governed, not just adopted. Moving from using AI to actually governing AI is a non-negotiable shift in a world where AI impacts disclosures, decisions, and reputation. The second is that data quality is paramount. AI's output is only as good as the data that it's fed, and the biggest gaps are often scattered data, a lack of data lineage, and an incomplete audit trail. Basically, if you can't trace it, you can't trust it. Steve, how about you?
Well, I had 2 points as well. First, when it comes to artificial intelligence or AI, human intelligence or HI is critical. The most important and successful approach is a hybrid model where AI handles maybe the heavy lifting, but then humans come in to provide context, judgment, and of course, accountability. And second point, don't be afraid to challenge the machine, right? Beyond basic training, critical skills like data fluency and the ability to ask the questions about the machine's outputs are absolutely critical.
Human intelligence, HI. I like this old school framing. Let's see if we can get this one to kind of stick. So let's kick it off now with Kim Huffman's interview with Deepa Rao.
Deepa, thank you so much for joining us today on the pre-read. Really looking forward to our conversation. So I know you work in sustainability and AI governance. From your vantage point, how effectively are companies really using AI today in corporate reporting?
The grounds are still pretty uneven. It's still growing fast. And I believe AI is moving from being just a copywriter to becoming deeply embedded in corporate reporting processes. Now, a year ago, I remember most teams were using AI for just surface level work, tidying tones, tightening language, making reports read better. Surely it was helpful, but still surface level. So now the real shift is happening behind the scenes where AI is cleaning the messy data, checking errors early, and then making sure numbers and narratives align well. So I feel it's kind of a mixed bag. Across the board, companies are at different stages of adopting AI. So for example, at one end, AI is still just a copy help, right? Great for first drafts, but risky nonetheless, because if you can't back those up with statements and claims with good data, I think that's where you keep the risk. The other one is a little step up from basic, which is it's a smart assistant, doing quick checks and flagging issues. Then the next level goes to a little more matured, where guardrails are added. A second pair of eyes, for example, or a clear trail of who changed what and why. And that's how you build trust. And then there's this last but very matured group, and I believe they're still far and few now, who are weaving AI into the processes from end to end. Right from data flow, clean. Basically, there's a clean lineage between where they start to the reporting. Checks run automatically. Approvals are captured as you go. So basically, audit ready by design. So it's evolution for sure. Companies are in its own journey and they're taking their own kind of time and pace to do that. But the whole idea is telling a good story to governing the story and the data, because that's what creates trust.
We've talked often on the pre-read previously that AI is only as good as the data it runs on.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of companies are challenged in that respect. Where do you see the biggest gaps between where companies think they are with data readiness and where they actually need to be?
So honestly, I think there's a lot of teams who overestimate their data readiness. A clean report is not the same as being assurance ready. So I think where the biggest gaps is the data itself. It's scattered across systems and sometimes it's just missing. Then the data lineage itself, right? Most teams can't easily trace where the number came from and how it changed. And thirdly, which is the most important, is having it audit ready. So many data sources lack the complete audit trail from source to final report. And ownership of key metrics is again often undefined. So that's when you add AI to the mix, the governance becomes non-negotiable. So if you can't trace it, you can't trust it. And if you can't trust it, don't feed it to AI. That's a simple rule, right?
Yep.
Because clearly, AI's output is only as good as the data you feed in.
What are some of the best practices you've seen in these areas for integrating AI into existing reporting processes to help accelerate and make those, finance and reporting teams more efficient without overwhelming them?
I think that's a great question because as we spoke about, right, every company is in its own journey. So the easiest way for the ones who are just starting out is to start small and scale thereafter. So the first thing is to spot the gaps. Where does your process hurt and what takes the most amount of time? Then get the guardrails to say what stays human and then what AI can handle. Once you've crossed these two determinations or stages, then you pick up the quick wins or do the pilot runs, right? Maybe reconciliation for my finance colleagues, maybe reconciliation could be a good start. Having first draft packs as you are building the data. I think those are the quick wins where teams are well versed with what the outcome is because they're doing it day in and day out. They are very comfortable with what the potential outcome is and run parallel checks, right? That's important as well because you cannot take chances with the data with AI just like that in the first go. So you have to do a parallel run. Once you do that, you measure the impact, learn from it, and then when it works, scale it up. So essentially, don't try to fix everything at once. Go slow, take baby steps if you wish, segregate between teams of who does what, prove value first, and then grow with confidence.
If you think about reporting, obviously, accuracy and trust are paramount. And this concept of data governance, you also mentioned validation and starting slow. How do you see companies moving through that process of building that trust and getting the maturity that you talked about early on, moving from level 1 to level 2, maybe? What are some of the roadblocks?
Sure. So first, I'll talk about the governance within AI itself, right? AI is reporting, but it just can't be fast. It needs to have accountability, accuracy, and explainability, right? And that's why I use the AIS framework, which is built on 4 pillars. And that kind of rounds up what you need to have a good, robust governance around AI. And this is a board level governance that, I've kind of thought through. It's called the AIS framework. A is the accountability of it, right? Who owns the tools? Who's responsible for the decision they support? It's not just the output, but you also need to have accountability for the model that runs behind it. Because at the end of the day, the model actually hallucinates. So you have to make sure that the model behind it is up to date and who's responsible and accountable for that. Then the other part is the I of the AIRS. That is the integrity, which is validate models, test the biases, and monitor performance continuously, not just at launch. It's a continuous process. And the R of the AIRS is basically the reporting, which makes AI outputs auditable and explainable with clear standards for example, metadata, traceability, and documentation. And the last, which often people forget, is the stewardship. So AI tools can't just be put and forgotten about. They're not forever. Govern these updates, retaining them and retiring them responsibly is what is important. So it's all about managing AI like any other strategic asset, right? You have an asset, you are tracking it from start to end, you are maintaining it, and that's the same goes with AI models, with care and foresight. And that's how you move from we are using AI to we are governing AI responsibly. That's
Absolutely.
the difference, right? And in a world where AI shapes disclosures, decisions, and reputations, the shift to AI governance is non-negotiable, according to me.
I love that. The AIRS framework and using AI versus governing AI.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Insightful. Want to ask you a question, kind of moving on from the technology, the governance to the people aspect of AI. And, when you think of AI and human intelligence, this sort of hybrid, it's very powerful for organizations as far as driving efficiency, driving productivity. Curious if you can share a real world example that you have where you found that balance works especially well in your area.
Sure. So first of all, the idea of AI plus HI is powerful, right? It's the foundation of using AI responsibly that work itself. So I've seen this firsthand when which makes a huge difference in reporting and getting efficiencies and gaining efficiencies within the process. AI handles the heavy lift for you, putting data together, checking for consistency, drafting first versions, which is amazing because first versions take the most amount of time. And then reiterating is basically the human that brings the context, judgment, and accountability. So the balance is what turns AI from a tool to a trusted partner. So speed from AI, trust from humans, and that's where the magic happens. As you said, how am I using this? Let's take sustainability disclosures for an example, right? AI can pull data from multiple systems, check for consistencies, and then draft the first version, as I said, of a reporting section. It happens in minutes. Drafting a version happens in minutes. You just have to provide it. This is the outline. This is what I need for you to talk about. And this is where the human intelligence now comes into place, where you're reviewing the context, applying your judgment, and ensuring the narrative aligns with strategy and regulatory nuances, right? The machine can crunch numbers for you, for sure, but it can't decide for you how to frame the material risks or interpret a new regulation. So you kind of reach a sweet spot when AI accelerates the process, human safeguards accuracy and credibility. That's how you get speed without sacrificing trust.
If you're listening to the show, you know that artificial intelligence is no longer just hype. It's already transforming workflows across finance, sustainability, audit, and risk. But here's the truth. AI isn't replacing people. The real opportunity is augmenting teams with smarter tools while unlocking the uniquely human strengths that drive strategy and trust. Join Workiva and guest speaker Seth Madison, CEO of FutureSight Labs, on Thursday, October 23rd at 2 p.m. for a webinar on how to thrive in the AI era. We'll cut through the myths and share practical ways to blend AI with human creativity, empathy, and decision-making for lasting impact. Register now at workiva.com/PR-AI human. That's WORKIVA.com/PR-AI human.
Upskilling is a big buzzword right now. Beyond basic training, AI training, what are some of the critical skills? And you mentioned data analysis as one just now, but are there others that you're seeing, that finance, reporting, sustainability teams need to develop to truly get to that sweet spot where you've gone from a tool to a trusted partner that you're seeing companies have success or you in your experience have had success with?
The two skills that I feel that stand out from a finance and reporting perspective is the data literacy itself. Not just reading numbers, right? But understanding the data lineage. A finance professional should know how is the data capturing the start to the end, because that's when the professional judgment comes in of how the data is flowing and what you should be looking out for, what is the quality, and how these models are actually using this data to calculate in the back end. So if you can't question the inputs, you can't trust the output. And the second piece of it is, besides just having basic training, is critical thinking with AI. So it's not about knowing where to trust the machine or when to trust the machine, but when to challenge it. That is important, right? So AI can surface patterns, but humans need to interpret it, validate it, and apply judgments, especially in areas like materiality and compliances, right? So those two skills, data fluency and the judgment in AI context, are what teams need to look at as true partners with AI.
I love that. Looking 2 or 3 years ahead, what's the next evolution of AI in corporate reporting that, that CFOs and their broader teams should be preparing for, from your perspective?
I think the first is reporting will become always on and easy for system to read. Think of it like having a live report that updates itself automatically, because it's automatically feeding, for example, the numbers in your emission reporting or in your data sets or your financial statements will automatically update itself. There's no human in that, but you have to make sure governance is there behind it. And AI will handle the heavy lifting for you behind the scenes, but the checks and approvals, the governance you need to still build it in. And secondly, what CFOs should start now is build assurance-ready evidence pack during the cycle and not after. So when you're doing governance, make sure you do it from the start itself, because by the time you go to the end, it's too late because AI has already done its work and kind of gets hard to go back, right? And upskill for AI plus HI. That's the artificial intelligence and human intelligence, which we generally call it as human in the loop. So teams know when to trust the machine and when to challenge it. That's important, right? You can't just take what it gives, but challenge it. And that's how you get the speed without losing the trust.
So many great insights you've shared with us today, Deepa. I have one last question.
Sure.
If you had to leave CFOs and their teams and their leaders with one piece of advice, you shared a lot today about approaching AI in corporate reporting, whether it's adoption, governance, building confidence. You have a lot of great insights and advice, but what would you share with that one piece of advice?
Don't treat AI as a shortcut. Treat it as a system you govern. Because adoption, again, is easy. Confidence comes with controls. Build governance in from day one. Keep human in the loop and make sure every AI-driven number can be explained and trusted. If you've done that, I think you've made your life easy, your data trustworthy.
Thank you again to our guest, Deepa Rao. And thank you for listening.
This has been the Pre-Read brought to you by Workiva, the world's only unified platform for financial reporting, sustainability, audit, and risk.
We've got more insights and hot takes coming your way, so be sure to follow or subscribe on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your edge.
And if you like the show, leave a review, send it to someone you love, or just shout it out on your next team call.
We'll be back soon. Until then, go lead it like you mean it.
I'm Steve Soder, and that's Alyssa Zucker. Segment reporting was handled by Kim Huffman. Our lead producer is Mike Gravano, with audio support from Joseph Machinsky and Drew Hayes.
Claire Allison is our graphic designer. Transcripts are created and edited by Courtney Kimsey. Thanks to our digital and social team, Mike Berg, Katie Carr, and Michael Karnowski.